will lead to an end
goodbye,
of this
Vortex.
game. But yeah, Vortex Ninja getting picked. Really good angle found by Tim there off that Cyclone. And now it's going to be Savon also in a whole lot of trouble, having to defend this tier 2 all by their lonesome without the depth charge available. Top side of the map, Pata, they now see the angle to go in for a fight. That's Ignite already activated. Hostile takeover in the mid lane is going to lead to yet another scrap in favor of OEI. Mystic Ken being taken down. Robin rushing deep, has the bailout taken onto them. They unfortunately cannot quite find an angle, and now with the roar over the wall, Yoshimiter is actually able to pop that W from the Renata and kill the Sivir.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate there for Robin. Just got clipped by enough damage from that feral scream. They couldn't stay alive. Good job by Yoshiminer to pick one up, but really, all over the map, the collapse continues for Happy to be here. Lost another in the top side, lost the turret in the mid lane. They're going to lose second Herald now too. Tim able to pick that up on the rotation afterwards. OEI now looking for their third Drake of the game. They're well on track to this Earth Soul in about 5.5 minutes. We need to start seeing some hero plays, and I don't think there's anyone in a super suit right now.
I really would not call for Happy to be here to make hero plays. I think that's just going to lead to imminent demise for Red Squad. They don't have anybody who could put the suit on like you're talking about, unfortunately. Their muscles just don't fill it out like they need to. Now, Vortex Ninja getting chased down, doesn't have the Flash or Cleanse available anymore. Pata eventually just gets into W range, lands it. Blue Caboose actually picks the kill up. Izzo caught in a 2v1 bot, but they luckily have that tier 1 tower to hide under, and so Mystic can't push forward.
Caught in a 2v1 or taking a 2v1? I don't think Izzo was particularly scared there. Had the Scout of the Week available, had the Unleashed Power available. I feel like he could have turned one if he was a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, we definitely could have seen that happen, although I like the fact that the Sindra didn't gamble because they really want to rotate up for this Dragon as 5 with the rest of Blue Squad. It looks like Mystic Hen may be going for that hero play you were talking about, or at least trying to steal this Dragon, but instead they're going to ult down onto Tim for the time being. That buys them a little bit more time in the pit. Now they're hit by the Cyclone, though. Smite Fight going to go the way of Optimal Esports Infinity, and now the Kane's also dead. Worst of both worlds. Happy to be here, continuing to fall behind. They're now down about 10,000 gold.
And now there's 50 seconds to Baron. That's another objective that could very easily go OE. A lot of the same pitfalls that we saw in Game 1. Poor priority on picks, questionable jungle decisions. Tim is on the Sejuani. That is such a safe champ that has the same ability that Wukong does to affect every lane, to gank everywhere, to be everywhere, and still keep farm up. I wonder if Happy to be here is really thinking about what they're doing, because it feels like they're not actually making smart choices here. It feels like they're just spinning one of those wheels like you see on game shows.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that spinning a wheel on the game show would lead to more random picks than what we're seeing here. Clearly, there's thought put behind it, right? They stole the Rakan from the Xayah. They're picking the Kayn again. So it isn't completely out of thin air that they're pulling these picks. But overall, I'm just really discontented with what they're going for. Maybe this Victor will be a bright spot. I mean, Yoshiminer was definitely one of the stronger performers in game number 1. And I think that putting them onto something like the Victor, where they have the ability to scale and really impact team fights, is going to shore up the strength of Kayn and Rakan a little bit, alongside scaling for the Varus. So that's a good angle. I don't know. Now they're giving Pride Stalker NA the counter pick, which I'm really happy to see. I'm just worried that their counter pick is going to be something like, I don't know, a carry, a Camille, right? I really don't want that to be the case. Renekton, very aggressive though, blind from OE Infinity.
Yeah, I mean, it's not entirely blind. They did ban out the Jax, so they know that the good counterpicks to it are gone. The Shen is still available. Shen does very well into Renekton, would be a lot of the tankiness and team help that this team desperately, desperately needs. Right now, they are 4 squishies playing into a Renekton Sejuani Xayah. They will explode.
And the Aria response to the Victor is a little bit interesting. I'm not going to say OE Infinity's draft is perfect either, Aulz. I think that here at the very end, this is a little bit of a stumbling block. If anything, I would have liked to see the Renekton mid actually versus the Victor. Sure, you're zoned a bit, but I think that given the jungle control that Tim has and the fact that you could basically rely on them to show up wherever you want, that could be a really difficult situation for Victor. And now we got the Rengar. Is this Rengar jungle Kayn top?
Nyarko.
What?
What is the Happy to be here top laner's name?
Oh, Okay, well, it's always good to go back to your one trick, right? I just don't think that it fulfills any niche in your comp. Like maybe you
I
blow up Zaya, who has an ult to get away from you. I don't know. Um, maybe champion comfort is all you need to get a dub, though.
I mean, I suppose, but I don't see it here. I don't see cohesion. I mean, yes, OE Infinity kind of threw a wrench in their own plans with the Ari. I think they would have been better with any other control mage. Really, I think the Syndra would have worked just fine in this comp. Done what Ari does, but a little bit more consistently. I think they could have
Mhm.
taken the Gwen, as you said, put the Gwen top, put the Renekton into the Victor, and would have had just a great time. But in comparison to Happy to be here, I don't see how this team fights and doesn't get exploded in the first 2 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I think that Rengar probably has a favorable matchup versus the Renekton, cutting down on the power of the Croc just a little bit. I don't know if it overcomes the potential skill gap that exists between Pata and Pride Stalker. Maybe this is just a champion unfamiliarity difference as well, where Pata is really gonna struggle not knowing where the Rengar is or something like that. It's this is a rough draft from Happy to be here. Maybe they're gonna have us singing a different tune as soon as we get onto the Rift Alls, but I think that we're gonna be seeing OEI go up 2-0.
I'm sure hoping that we see something good out of Happy to be here. Even if they lose the game, I want them to show up. I want them to look good. I mean, I said at the top of cast, I think these two teams are evenly matched. I think we're going to see a nice, close, long series here. And I feel kind of let down, I wanted the fun. I
Mhm.
wanted to see these games be interesting and close, and 7,000 gold down at 14 minutes just ain't that. So here's hoping, knock on wood, that we're gonna see some surprises here from the red side.
Well, maybe it is the case that this Rengar is just going to be a little bit more independent. Renekton, I feel like, can't get the consistent, like, whittle down poke damage that Pantheon can with Spear Shot. And so what you might see is that it's now the case that Rengar at least stays safe, isn't going to die a ton in the 1v1. So Kane can focus bot. And I think that last game, Happy to be here, had some potential like power spikes coming out of the Aphelios out on the Nautilus that just didn't really come to fruition because of how short the game was. Here, if they could slow the pace down, get that Victor ahead, that'll also go hand in hand with getting the Varus ahead. And maybe if Kane just focuses down the Zaya early before they get the Featherstorm out, and Nautilus is kind of baited away for like some kind of roam, leaving this champion alone, it could be the case that Robin falls behind, and maybe that's how Happy to be here gets this win.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible, and we have seen that before. However, I don't necessarily know that Robin has always been the strong point of OE Infinity. Not to not to talk down on the person who pays our wages here, but Robin wasn't the carry last game. He is rarely the
Mhm.
carry, or at least rarely the solo carry when OEI plays. Sometimes he's a secondary carry, but a lot of the power comes from Tim, comes from Pata. Izzo steps up into that role more often. So if they put Robin behind, I think that says more for Vortex Ninja than it necessarily does for shutting down OEI here.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that necessarily Robin needs to be cut down upon as this like ticking time bomb of strength for OEI, but rather you need to get gold from somewhere. And my God, just kill someone to get that gold because Happy to
Sure.
be here was not getting kill gold at all in that first game.
Kill gold, or minion gold, or turret
Or true,
gold,
yeah,
or neutral
yeah, true,
objective gold.
or true.
uh, all all jokes aside,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see a good game. This
Yep.
is this is an interesting draft. This is
Hmm.
there are definitely choices on both sides that I think we can agree we disagree with. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it comes down to play. It comes down to how they actually execute, and we can see sparks. We can see shock here, and I'm looking forward to being surprised.
All right. Well, Optimal Esports Infinity, and happy to be here about to face off for the second game of the night here in the OCL. This is the elimination bracket, guys. All the marbles are on the table, and OE Infinity are looking to keep their momentum. Happy to be here, trying to answer back with some more novel picks. Let's see if they can pull it off. We're going to throw it to a quick break, but when we return, it's going to be on the Rift for game number 2. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Rift, and welcome back to the OCL. It's game number 2 between Optimal Esports Infinity, and happy to be here. And certainly, this is an interesting draft from both sides. Happy to be here, going for the Rengar top, getting Pride Stalker NA, their namesake, and hopefully we'll see them make an impact and splash off of it. I'm a little bit worried about this draft as a whole. Not gonna lie, Aulz. But Optimal Esports Infinity, they got some gaps there as well that they have to patch up. We, I think, are going to have to look at the Rift, look at this early game to really decide who's coming out on top.
Yeah, and this early game is certainly something to behold. We have all 5 members of Happy to Be Here camping for the counter invade. Bot side, well, most of OEI invades the top. Robin just kind of chilling in the red buff. It's certainly an interesting strategy, but didn't pay off for anybody. No wards, no vision, no knowledge.
And it looks like we're probably actually going to be getting a leash off of these starts. Sejuani seems to be pathing down towards the red buff, but no, they're actually going to be grabbing their wolves alone, letting that Xayah and Nautilus get early priority. Meanwhile, Mr. Ken this time around, they're not going to start with their own wolves. They are grabbing themselves blue buff to begin their path.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is the second time Tim has started leashless. This time on wolves. It'll be interesting to see which direction he paths, because could go for the top side clear into a gank top, could start looking to rotate towards the bot side very quickly here, and either way I think would have some benefits for him. Looks like he is going to clear up that top side, so Pride Stalker might be the recipient of a gank here in a couple of minutes.
I think that's probably a good call. Pride Stalker definitely an unknown quantity on this Rengar already. Getting some good poke down versus Pata. Bot side of the map, Blue Caboose in a lot of trouble. Great grand entrance there from Savon. That's not the dynamic you would expect out of that lane. Usually the Nautilus is going to dominate the Rakan, but now look topside. Pata's in a lot of trouble. Flash forward. Pride Stalker gets solo Bolo.
Yeah, that's a surprise, and good. That's what we needed to see from Pride Stalker, who has been very lackluster throughout the season here. Nice change of pace, getting a kill on his own, has the wave in a great spot. As long as he can avoid a gank from Tim here, as soon as the Sejuani hits level 3, should be in great shape.
Blue Caboose having to burn that flash is in an awkward spot. OEI looking far more shaky in this very early laning phase than what we saw in game number 1. And yeah, as you're saying, this is exactly what I want to see. That being said, Pride Stalker NA overstaying top. Now Pata has returned triumphantly to the Rift, has their own Ignite available, ticks down the Rengar, and that's the big cat going back.
Yeah, and, I said exactly one thing. I said as long as he doesn't die to a gank from Tim here, he wins He wins a bunch here in terms of pressure and advantage. What is the first thing he does? He comes back and dies. Feels bad.
The thing to be said here is that Happy to Be Here up 500 gold even with that even kill score. So that certainly is something. I haven't seen all the waves, so I don't know to what extent that's just kind of a push and pull, but that is early gold lead over to them for the first time this series, and that's exciting for sure. It's giving the confidence for Mr. Ken to go for one of those deep invades that we were talking about. Moving as 3, the bot lane of Happy to Be Here also going to cluster around that red buff, denying Tim access to this crucial camp. Blue Caboose is going to come up. Xayah also on their way, maybe looking for an angle in, but now Tim's in a lot of trouble. Just as a flashback, Blue Caboose trying to peel, not going to be able to hit the dredge line to escape though. Now they're getting chased down. Great flash forward. The Cade gets that pickup. Now Tim's going low. Vortex Ninja gets that one. Robin just has to run away. Disaster for OEI.
Fight's not over yet. Robin looking for anything here, trying to find the damage onto Mr. Ken or Saivon. Won't be able to quite pick it up, but came close. Meanwhile, topside.
Yeah, Pata's in a lot of trouble. Just going to have to take the reset. Might actually die to a dive if Pride Stalker get the wave managed. I don't think that's possible, but still. Utter domination. Early Red Squad very much ahead now. About 1,500 gold in their favor. And this is the sign of life I wanted to see out of this team to make me confidently say, hey, maybe this goes more than 3 games.
Yeah, thank goodness, right? I don't look like a complete idiot for my prediction that these two teams would be more or less balanced. Happy to be here, finally showing signs of life, finally waking up, and hopefully they can carry it all the way through the game.
You may not look like an idiot for talking about wanting this to go 5 games, but also the problem is that I certainly look like an idiot for flaming Happy to Be Here's draft. It's just kind of working as intended. Pride Stalker NA, they've stabilized that top side of the map. They don't really need Mr. Ken, and that's opening up the rift for the Kane to actually go for those more high-tempo invades that we really wanted to see out of this strategy in game number 1.
Yeah, and Mr. Ken, not losing the gank badly in bot lane level 1, level 2 helped push him ahead. Has a 4-camp lead because Tim had a slow early start, but here comes the gank onto Yoshi.
Oh no, Blue Caboose only going to be able to hook a minion. Now getting poked low, we'll just have to try to make it back out of dodge, and that's another play turned around by Happy to be here. Great rotation from Savant to answer back. Pata maybe able to get a pick onto Mr. Ken here, but no, Kane walks straight over the wall, no flash to follow, and I think the Renekton could have died if they did that, in fact, as Pride Stalker has come down to defend their jungler.
Yeah, it looks like OEI wants to potentially take the fight against Pride Stalker, who's just going to back away though, so no particular fun to be had there. Both supports spending a lot of time in this mid lane though is going to mean that Izzo and Yoshi Miner are behind in XP. Not quite where they would normally be at this time in the game.
But what a turnaround from Happy to be here. That was great shot calling as well. Understanding their limits, rotating back out. Pride Stalker may be caught out eventually. They will be able to get back over to the bush. They can't get the knockup off the Sejuani Arctic Assault, though. And so now Rengar has a second lease on life. No flash available, but he is zooming towards that bush. Might be able to get to safety yet again. Dodges out of the way of that Q. And yeah, in fact, they will not be able to grab the big cat back. And Optimal Esports Infinity lose Dragon for that chase.
What a world here. Happy to be here. Finally having the cards fall their way, and every single card is coming up them. Mr. Ken not dying, Pride Stalker not dying, the Dragon going over to them. Feels like a complete inversion of Game 1 here, and it's very nice to see.
It's only about 1,000 gold leaf for Happy to be here at the 7-minute mark, though. That's a good stance to have. I mean, you continue to snowball that, and all of a sudden, you could easily see a very even gold score to what we saw in game number 1, where OEI was crushing at 10k up at like 17 minutes or something like that. If we see the reversal, that gives me hope for Happy to be here's like full life in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can capture this lightning in a bottle that they have here in the start of game 2 and make it last, they're in great shape. On the other side though, OEI needs to kind of slow down a little bit, get back to the form they had throughout game 1 and try and reclaim the momentum here.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that Optimal Esports Infinity still have some breathing room with Pata being about even with Pride Soccer NA in terms of gold. Surely a lot of time has been invested to getting the Renekton ahead, and that hasn't paid off. But Renekton's not behind, and that is always a good place to be if you're OEI. I think that Izzo is also doing an admirable job trying to find picks. Obviously, it's a little bit difficult when they're just alone there in the mid lane, which has kind of been weak-sided, if you could say that mid lane is a side of the map for quite a while in this series, and I think that it's something that Tim is kind of avoiding for this time being because Mr. Ken has such great access to that lane off the back of the cane. So with that in mind, yeah, I mean, OEI have hopes. They just really haven't come to fruition yet, and because that is the case, I'm pretty confident to say Happy to be here. They can snowball this. They have the ability to do so.
Yeah, looking to continue their domination of the neutral objectives with the Rift Herald, but fighting the top side might go OEI's way, forcing the flash out of Pride Stalker.
Yeah, that's a huge ability burned as well. The ultimate gone, but Savon coming forward. Here comes the Kane as well. And the 2v3, I think, is going to turn right back over to Red Squad. Pata's down. Tim also in a whole lot of trouble. Gets strapped on up. Pride Stalker just comes right back on top side and is able to kill the Sejuani. 2-0. Optimal Esports Infinity showing their stripes, although Izzo is looking to turn that around, will be able to get the kill. Mr. Ken, though, trying to return it back. Spirit Rush over the wall for Izzo gets them to safety. But that's coming off the back of a huge play and a lot of priority gained by Red Team. Happy to be here will probably just be able to get the Rift Herald.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be started up by Mr. Ken here. Good return from Izzo to get something back there, but still.
Oh no,
fight.
Robin. Oh, that's so unfortunate. They bungle the dive. Blue Caboose took too many shots early, just had to walk away from the tower aggro. Robin burns their Featherstorm, but couldn't get the burst. And that turns into a favorable play for Happy to be here. All the while, Savant has been roaming. So Vortex Ninja, they got that solo.
Yeah, that's huge for Vortex. Now up 2-0-1. Very close to getting that Immortal Shield Bow. I mean, I was about to praise Izzo for doing well, and Robin has to kind of ruin the mojo for him by pulling that. Real unfortunate for OEI at 6-2. They're not feeling great right now.
Yeah, and that was just such an awkward dive. Once Blue Caboose started taking aggro, Robin needed to walk away. Had a lot of summoner spells to even get out of tower aggro range, but just unfortunately decided to force the issue. And from there, we saw Happy to Be Here now profiting basically everywhere on the map, except for maybe mid, with Izzo getting that pick top. It's a tough situation for sure. Right now, that gold lead is starting to widen. It's almost at 2,000 now in favor of red team. And Optimal Esports Infinity, they have the simultaneous burdens of needing to stop giving over free kills by playing aggressively, while also needing to play aggressively to get back into this.
Yeah, and it's going to just continue to get harder to play aggressively as the tempo continues to shift in Happy to Be Here's way. The Rift Herald is finally picked up. Looks like Mr. Ken reset to get the transform here. We're going to see a fight in the bot side.
Oh, no. Yeah, Robin, I don't know what you're doing up there without your Featherstorm available. Now, Blue Caboose also going to get engaged upon by the quickness, getting absolute hellfire rained down upon them. Will be able to flash and dredgeline right outside the range of Vortex Ninja's Q, so they get to safety. Tim is here to shore the lane up. But I mean, already the AD carry is dead yet again. That Varus is getting more and more fed, and Savon is just able to jump away from Izzo as they approach, looking for a charm angle. They're trying to go for it. Q not going to do a whole lot of damage. Vortex Ninja is locked up. Izzo navigating that fight beautifully, gets the shutdown. Savon just has to stand there and watch.
Yeah, good return. Izzo starting to get a fair bit of gold from these roams, from these cleanups on the back of bad fights. The problem is, your team can only lose so many fights without you. At some point, Izzo has to start being there for these fights. OEI has to pick smarter, has to be a little bit more intelligent about when they choose to engage and how they get engaged on. Does look like they are going to get a Drake off this, though, which is another nice feather in their cap, unless Mr. Ken can pull some magic.
Yeah, 4 members of Blue Squad here. Optimal Esports Infinity have a really good angle around this dragon, and it looks like because that's the case, Mr. Ken is not even going to try to contest. This is a really good call, I think. Happy to Be Here don't want to gamble their gold lead that they've established off of a dicey fight, and they have enough pressure on the match to where I don't think that they immediately need to look for a soul angle, especially now that we see it's Chemtech, right? So this overall, getting a few plates into the mid lane as well, makes a lot of sense as their angle into this mid game.
Yeah, those plates are unfortunately split a little bit more widely than they might want, as Savon is here as well. So a little bit less gold into Yoshi Minor and Mr. Ken's pockets, but still, the Kayn is already red, will be a health tank throughout this game. Vortex Ninja soloing the bot turret is going to get a ton of plate gold into his own pockets as well. This is going very well for OEI, and Robin is caught out once again.
Yeah, you say it's going well for OEI, but now you have the Xayah isolated under this tier 1 turret. Blue Caboose trying to come in from the back end, make something happen. Robin goes down. Luckily, they're able to get the fadeaway kill down onto Vortex Ninja. Blue Caboose trying to distract Savon and Mr. Ken, keep them here. Maybe there could be a rotation down, but right now the Ahri's pushed up. So it's really the Nautilus against the world right there. As now we got to look topside. As I totally forgot, Pride Soccer NA, they're doing well on this Rengar. They're actually taking Pata quite low. Tim has to come up here. They may be able to shore this play back in favor of OEI, though. Pride Soccer NA trying to sprint away from this one. Tim a little bit too tanky. They're taking so much tower aggro, it just doesn't matter. Pata eventually finds purchase under the big cat, and they get the kill.
Yeah, Mr. Ken might be caught out here, though. The fight's refusing to end. Mr. Ken is gone, gone, gone.
And that's a shutdown over to Izzo, who's already steamrolled ahead. That were 2-0, now they're 3-0, got a bounty of their own going. And Optimal Esports Infinity, in the course of just a few minutes, have really turned the tempo of this game back around. They closed up that gold lead quite a bit. They have a dragon to their name, and I really think that this mid game is anyone's guess.
Yeah, you know, we definitely saw some poor play early from OEI, but they did what you want, or Happy to Be Here did what you wanted them to do. They focused down Robin, trying to get Vortex Ninja ahead, and they have done so. But the result of that is that everywhere else on the map has started turning on for OEI.
No. Pride Soccer just has to flash out. They try to get back towards that dying tower. We talked about this before, Aulz, and now they may be punished for doing so. Mr. Ken doing all they can to peel, and they're actually succeeding quite nicely. Now Blue Squad is the ones on the run. Pride Soccer and A gets the leap forward down onto Tim, who doesn't have flash available, can't really find a way out, just has to try to duke it out with the Rengar. Does not succeed in doing so, though, and so immediately McCain gets a kill, and they're back on the map.
Yeah, I do like this from Tim, saying there's no way for me to get out. Go ahead, save Pata, who's the slightly more valuable carry. You're already 0-2, your kills are worth less and less as you move forward. Still not great to die there, but it's better than the alternative. Is Pata's going to try and solo Pride Stalker here? I don't think he's going to win that.
No, not a level down without your summoner spells or ult available. The Renekton getting some good poke, but yeah, they couldn't quite make that a cleanup kill to even out that play top. And so with that in mind, OEI is just going to have to look for a reset alongside Happy to be here, and they'll duke it out once again, I'm sure. Now, maybe mid lane Izzo could do something, but I mean, those death rays are starting to do damage. Yoshi Miner still comes out unfavorably in that trade, but that's about the extent of Ahri's burst combo. Maybe Foxfire would do a little bit more, but I mean, right now, this Victor is looking very stable in that lane.
Yeah, is very stable. Izzo does have the pick potential, though, if they can find a good angle. Tim is here as well. Completely whiffs on Sivon. I'm not sure if that was the intended target or not.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the aim was there. Were you trying to hit Yoshi Miner, or were we trying to hit Sivon? Regardless, they don't hit either. And yeah, that play falls apart. OEI just has to back off, and that's a core spell now down that Happy to be here could use to try to get some more vision, some more control over this bot side river, looking for the third dragon of the game.
Yeah, with just a minute until this Drake spawns, there are definitely better spots to use that. If he could have Arctic Assaulted over the wall to find Tim there, perhaps it would have been better, but Mystiken may be caught out.
Yeah, they're just going to ult down onto Blue Caboose, go for the escape, but now it's a depth charge being dropped onto Kane. Unfortunately, Tim, they were way too close to Yoshi Miner, and it's the reclaps. Happy to be here. They will just enclose their noose around the jungler of Optimal Esports Infinity, and now Blue Squad chased out a river. They will be incapable of going for this dragon.
Yeah, their best hope now is to buy some time, let Tim get back and look for the steal, although this Victor didn't know he was on a ward.
Oh, great call by Izzo, knowing that they were there in that bush, rushing forward, getting the charm to interrupt the back. Even Flash was burned, and the Victor still couldn't get out. So now, maybe this is looking a little bit more even. Optimal Esports Infinity could, in fact, try to push for it. Now, let's look top. That is going to be Dominus forced out of Pata, and they are going to look to make the most of that ability, trying to get as much damage down onto the Rengar as possible. But, I mean, it's so hard to fight with this Rengar top when they have that bush control available. That's even Ignite used, and it still doesn't really matter. The Rengar is perfectly happy to sit there in that lane.
Yeah, did take a lot of damage, but meanwhile, on the bot side, Robin caught out once again. Doesn't have a Featherstorm, so is just going to die.
I'm not really sure what the call was there from Robin. There's been a few of those baffling choices by the Xayah being made here. I mean, Tim was nowhere close to be able to shore up a push like that, and so all you're doing is giving a free pick back over to Happy to be here, denying an engage chance for Tim to get into that pit to try to get the dragon, and yeah, this one is going to go all in favor of Happy to be here.
Meanwhile, though, on the top side, Pata continuing to try and solo Pride Stalker. This fight has been going on for about 30 minutes at this point, it feels like.
Oh, Izzo, that's unfair. You can't just come in here and turn the fight in favor of blue team. Even so, Pata might go down. That Ignite's doing a whole lot. That is a clutch level up to keep them safe, and thank their lucky stars that Izzo was there.
Yeah, no kidding. Izzo saving his top laner's life. Now 5-0-0 is pretty massive on the Ahri. Will that be enough, though, to deal with the 4-1 and 4 Kane? Mystiken putting on his carry pants feels like a completely different jungler from what he was in Game 1.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about how Mystiken is on a very snowball-oriented champion. Here, that snowball's actually gotten to start rolling rather than just immediately melting on a hot sidewalk, right? And so that's very, very valuable for Happy to be here. Izzo really deep in this one. Mystiken coming forward. Sivon just takes a little bit of poke at the end of all that, and Izzo does get out, but they have to activate, I think, a charge of their Spirit Rush in order to do so.
Yeah, they did use the Spirit Rush. However, what that did was buy enough time for the entirety of OEI to work together, take out that Rift Herald, and might be enough to break some turrets open here, potentially open up that mid lane and let OEI get some vision here as we look towards the Baron spawn in 45 seconds.
It's a 2,000 gold lead for Happy to be here, moving towards that Baron spawn. Certainly not the gap that we saw in game number 1 in favor of OEI, but Aulz. This is not only a game that is even for Happy to be here, it is one that they are slightly favored in, and I love to see that. I think that we've got a real banger of a mid-game on our hands.
Yeah, I mean, the one downside is that they've kind of slowed down a little bit. They were hard forward early. They were winning fights left, right, and center, but this gold difference is kind of stagnated here at the 2,000 mark for the past 5 or 8 minutes. I need to see Happy to be here start stepping up again, start pushing it forward, and continue to grow their lead instead of just holding it if they want to win this game.
You see, it's interesting you say that, Aulz, because I think that it's actually on OEI to try to push forward and get an advantage back on their side of the court, because the scaling for Happy to Be Here is immense. You got the Victor and Vortex Ninja on the Varus already relatively fed. I mean, that plus Mystic Ken on the Kane already going for that red side. Think that this is really going to be a game where Optimal Esports Infinity have to find something secured in the next 10 minutes or so before they're really just out of this one. Izzo is trying to find that thing, but they're just shut down by Pride Stalker. Jumping over the wall into 3 is not the call that I was talking about. Ari, you gotta chill.
Yeah, did pick up one for Robin, but at 2 and 4, the Xayah isn't necessarily the man to beat right now. The big shutdown going over to Pride Stalker does not help, but it doesn't look like the fight is over. Mystic Ken wants to go in deep.
And I like this call by Mystic Ken. Now Tim is a little bit isolated, has to take the long way around to get back into this fight. Blue Caboose cannot stand up versus the mid laner and jungler of Happy to Be Here. They just flash over the red buff wall to get to safety, but crucial summoner spells now burnt, and I think the Optimal Esports Infinity come out lesser with those plays, especially like you were saying, because Izzo gave over a huge gold buff to Pride Stalker NA off the back of their bounty.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what Pride Stalker continues to build here. Starting off with the Divine Thunder is going to make him tankier, is going to make him a good brawler here. I'm wondering if he is going to start speccing into tank here, if the Warden's Mail is looking in that direction in the long term. Because right now, the only tank on this side is really just Mystic Ken being a health tank with the Gore Drinker, with the passive healing from Rost. And I don't necessarily love that unless they can start getting these carries outside of Mystic Ken really far ahead too.
And it looks like it's actually going to be the next dragon that is contested rather than Baron Nashor. I don't think that we're going to be seeing the same dynamic from game number 1, where Optimal Esports Infinity just kind of ignored a chance at Soul because they were so far ahead so early on. This time around, we are seeing the classic dropping of a pretty late Rift Herald into the mid lane, trying to get this tier 1 down, try to get some momentum and pressure over Optimal Esports Infinity. But we see the dragon spawn, and in fact, getting the pick there onto Savon is another huge boon, a big control for Blue Squad.
Yeah, that's one way to get momentum, right? Is to take momentum away from the enemy team. Savon, second death of the game, is doing really well at 1, 2, and 7, but walked up a little bit too much, didn't respect Izzo's range on the charm, and I think with him dead, that's going to make it nigh impossible for Happy to Be Here to walk into this Drake.
Yep, and we'll have to see now what Happy to Be Here wants to do with their time. They could try to establish some amount of control over the Baron Nashor, but Mystic Ken, they're still hovering down here. They know off their sweeper that Pada is sitting in that bush, but yet they do not walk out. They really do seem to want to push through this bot side jungle, get into the river, and actually go for the fight. Izzo getting poked pretty heavily by that death ray pretty early on. Yoshi Miner doing a really good job forcing them through this choke point. Now Savant is back on the rift, gonna activate that quickness, get onto so many members. Pride Stalker on the flank of a lifetime as well. Here comes Vortex Ninja to rain down the poke. Blue Caboose all chained up. Tim going low. Robin as well. Savant is going to be taken down, but they're right in the middle of the death ray, and that's going to be the Xayah dead. Izzo rushing forward, that they have nowhere to go with that Spirit Rush. A triple kill for the Varus. It's an ace. Happy to Be Here have busted this game wide open.
Well, that's one way to restore confidence in your team. Great fight there, only Savant going down, did his job, locked everybody up, and won that fight massively. Puts them on Soul Point, puts them on Baron here. And this is the momentum that I feel we needed to see from Happy to Be Here. We needed them to step up, not just to win this game, but also to take the momentum moving into Game 3 if they want to take this series. This is the look I like to see.
And that was just such an awkward fight for OEI on multiple fronts. They overextended. They should have realized that Savon's death timer wasn't that long. They were going to be back up. That the Rakan didn't use the quickness before they died either. So they had that available. They all had to run really far back to avoid that engage. They couldn't do it. The grand entrance landed true. And then for some reason, Robin just kind of stood in the middle of people like auto-attacking. And that just meant that it was easy for Yoshi Miner to find the kill alongside Vortex Ninja. And now, Happy to Be Here, they have a huge gold lead. It's 5,000 in their favor. Optimal Esports Infinity on the back ropes.
Yeah, this game definitely moving heavily into Happy to Be Here's favor. with Vortex Ninja now huge, Yoshi Minor now huge, Mr. Ken stepping up massively here. I really like their chances to finish this out as long as they play smart here, going for the 1-3-1, wanting to push in everywhere, and you can see that it's working very well. OEI already forced to call up Pata, stop responding to Pride Stalker. This is good for Happy. This is what they need and what they need to continue to push forward with. I like to see this.
100%. Optimal Esports Infinity cannot really answer any of these specific lanes. They are going to have to rotate people around the map, and that means they're always going to get profit somewhere on Happy to Be Here's side. So, with that in mind, I think that HBH is doing the right thing by going for the 1-3-1, and already they're beginning to enclose upon a lot of these different outer turrets that still exist. The tier 2s going down basically everywhere. The tier 1 top side also not long for this world. So, yeah, OEI, they just got to relax. They got to turtle up. They got to realize they're going to be losing quite a bit of gold off of this push. But there is a chance that as long as they don't bungle this, as long as they don't give over free kills, they can survive this onslaught, maybe look to contest Soul, and from there get back into this game.
Yeah, I mean, Soul contest would be definitely a chance. On the other hand, if they go ahead and give Soul, it's a Chemtech Soul. It's not the most important Soul. Saivan is in trouble here.
Yeah, the question is, how much is Blue Squad going to chase? It looks like they're going for this one. Yoshi Mine are able to teleport in. Ari looking for a pick onto the backline. Vortex Ninja already be taken low, but the Varus has way too much damage when combined with the Victor. Chaos Storm zoning out Robin and Blue Caboose. And this Victor is just happy to continue to walk forward. Tim Pincer on all sides. Pride Stalker has found a bush to jump out of and give the Sejuani the fright of a lifetime. They're slowed down by the singularity, that gravity field from Happy to Be Here. Coming in clutch, and Optimal Esports, they do exactly what I said to not to do, right, Aulz? They give over free kills, and now Happy to Be Here are able to just run it down mid.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game is over here. I don't think that Robin and Pata alone can hold this against 4. If Happy wants to end this, they can do so, but instead they're going to pull out. They want to finish off the game cleanly, so they're going to take the slow route.
Yeah, they've cracked open this inhibitor. They have about a minute 20 before the dragon comes up, and this is kind of like that dicey time where if you overextend with Baron and all die, Optimal Esports Infinity could realistically push back bot and really contest for that dragon, or maybe even just take it outright, depending on how long Happy to Be Here kind of is set on the run for. So I like the fact that they withdraw now, and they will have plenty of time to reconnoiter, get back out onto the map with their newly found
Oh
wealth.
no, Izzo.
They're making play, although Pride Soccer NA maybe gets caught out. At least they get their back interrupted. Izzo continuing to push the issue. I don't know about this one. I think Blue Caboose and Izzo have done what they could to interrupt some of the backs and stall out Happy to Be Here just a little bit. Now they're biting off a bit more than they could chew. That was a clutch blast plant, though, to get the Nautilus to safety.
Yeah, did get Nautilus to safety. However, Pata took half his health in damage on the backside of that fight. Looks like Happy's going to get their recalls in here with about 25 seconds until the Drake spawns, which means they're going to be coming in at full health. This is going to be probably the fight that decides the game here, Nyarko.
I personally don't even think that OEI should take this. It's Chemtech Soul, which, yeah, sucks, but it doesn't suck as hard as some of these other Souls, right? I think it's statistically the worst one, actually. And you need to do something about your base, guys. That's a super minion wave rushing down onto your Nexus towers. But Savon, they've already tried to find the angle in. Robin's just going to mow down their husband, though, so that's a really good call. Unfortunately, Yoshi Miner and company are happy to take this 4v5. Pata being whittled so low that Ignite going to finish them off from Pride Soccer NA. Now Tim also caught out. It's already a double kill for the Victor. Make it a triple, and that is a clean ace. Or not quite, actually. Robin's still alive. I don't think they're going to be able to defend this base, though.
No, I don't even know if they're necessarily going to make it all the way back in time, as 4 members of Happy sprinting towards the mid lane want to end this game here and now. 15 seconds on the most early spawn here for any of the members of OEI. This game is over, and we are going to get at least 4 games tonight here in Nyarko.
Impressive showing from Happy to Be Here, bouncing back with what I thought was actually an inferior draft game number 1, but they made me eat my words, and Optimal Esports Infinity just looked so awkward from minute 1. They had some strong spots. I think that the picks that we saw mid lane and the play off of Izzo was very impressive, but now we need to see something coming out of their bot lane to answer back against what Happy to Be Here is able to do off the backs of Vortex Ninja and Savon.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are other things that need to be targeted too. The Kane finally woke up. The Kane finally showed. And Tim did not seem like he had a response that game. It felt like the Sejuani really just couldn't find the angles that the Wukong was finding. So perhaps Tim needs to look at himself a little bit. Pata just getting outplayed on the Renekton versus the Rengar. Might need to find a different champ there. Izzo, the Ahri looked fine, but then towards the mid and late game, he started getting caught out. He started taking bad fights, and he needs to not do that. He needs to be more intelligent about how he plays. I mean, if OEI cleans up, I think they're in good shape, but this game showed a lot of holes in their play.
All right. Well, as you're saying, Alls, we at least have 4 games on the table for tonight. So with that in mind, let's throw it to a quick break. Let's get into the lobby for game number 3, and we'll see everybody back on the Rift, or at least first in the draft here in a few seconds.